But if their story is sacred, Dale, let me tell you something. I've learned this in my day. He said, I've heard a few people go around talking about their experience, that they've seen heaven and that they've come back. And then they go around and tell people. Sometimes they write books. And this was news to me. I'd never heard of this. And sometimes they write books and they go around, and sometimes they kind of make a little bit of a living doing this. And I'd never heard of that. But I, listened, and he said, if your story is sacred, Dale, if your experience is really sacred and it's really from God, why don't you consider not sharing your experience with anyone until God makes it clear? Dale, if your experience is sacred, why not just live your life as a reflection of what you believe you've seen and heard and experienced? He said, Dale, I want you to know that I'm not challenging you. I'm not doubting your experience. It would make a lot of sense to me, but boy, you might want to pray about whether you want to release this information, or shall we just keep this under wraps, in a sense, until God makes it clear to release it. And I said, Grandpa, okay, fine. I have no desire to tell anybody, no desire to write a book, nothing. He said, fine, don't do it because I'm telling you, just you go pray about it. So I did. I spent several days asking God what I would do, what I should do. And I had no desire, like I just said, I had no desire to write a book about this experience. I had no desire to tell anybody else. Grandpa knew. And then I made a prayer to God, and I promised him. I said, God, listen, this is how my prayer went. It's probably immature and juvenile, but keep in mind, I'm barely 20. And I said something like this. I said, God, thank you for my memory back. Thank you for bringing this information back to me. But God, I don't want to tell this story, and I'll be glad to keep it quiet. I'll be glad to not tell anybody. It's fine with me. But if you want me to tell this story, you're going to have to make it crystal clear to me. You're going to have to tell me that that's what you want me to do, because it's not something I want to do, so I'm going to keep it secret. I actually went on to say, I'm not going to tell my wife if I ever get married. I'm not going to tell my kids if I ever have kids. I mean, I really got extreme. That was a part of my prayer too, but it was like a vow I made with God. It was very personal, me, God, nobody else. And within the hour, I got on the phone, called my granddad, and told him how I felt like God had led me to not share the story. And so he seemed to be pleased with that, and we made a pact between him and I to keep it a secret. Well, I have to admit, I was quite convinced that I would keep the story secret for maybe 2 or 3 years, 4 at the most. And I was quite convinced that I would share this story very soon when I was in my 20s, but no way, not once. I might say that about a year after this experience, I got an invitation from my uncle, Uncle Jerry, in the office right next to Grandpa. That was our family business. And he said, hey, Dale, there's going to be a service next Sunday night and at the church, and the guy, and I could give you his name, but I probably won't. He died of leukemia and went to heaven and came back pleading for this because his brother was not saved. So he's come back and he goes all around telling about his story. And I thought, oh my gosh, well, Jerry didn't know what Grandpa and I knew. But I said, I'll go. And so I sat with Jerry and Verna, my aunt, his wife, and I listened to this story. Now, this story changed me because I believed the story. I did believe the story. I believed the guy's story.